Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning, potentially. Good evening, depending on where you are. Joining us in the world today, my name is Ian Lawless. I am Head of Content Partnerships and Event Director here at Procurement Leaders. Really delighted to be with you all again. What's going to be another fascinating discussion this week on how we uncover millions with AI-driven supplier contracts compliance and optimization. I'm going to be a very great opportunity for us as we just bring up the first slide here for us to have just a quick chat around kind of some of the thoughts and the context around this for today. So everyone's aware procurement teams are under incredible pressure at the moment to reduce costs, to really think about how we improve supplier accountability, prevent financial leakage. All of these are pressures that exist on top of managing thousands of contracts. So over the next 45 minutes, it's going to be a great opportunity for us to explore some of these critical areas that you see in front of you here and how we can really pinpoint some of those contract gaps that lead to leakage, how AI can help us to reveal some of those high impact saving opportunities, how some of those historical learnings, industry benchmark data can also become something really powerful with contract negotiation levers, and how global enterprises are transforming their indirect spend and supplier contracts to really drive measurable savings. So an awful lot for us to try and get through in the next 40 minutes. And thankfully, I've got two experts with me who are going to be excellent help in doing exactly that. So great to be able to welcome to the conversation today, and partnering with us on this session, I should say, our PRGX. So big thank you to them for their partnership today. But please welcome Briceson Jones, Director of Procurement Optimization, and Amit Dingare, Chief AI Officer at PRGX. So great to have you both with us. Amit, maybe if I come to you first, just briefly introduce yourself to the audience, explain a little about your remit at PRGX. Love someone who's got the title of a Chief AI Officer nowadays as well. So what that entails over for the audience is always interesting.
New title, isn't it? So I've been the Chief AI Officer at PRGX for about 20 months. Joined a company to build the AI practice, and we are seeing great value through AI use cases. But I've been in the field of AI even before it was called AI. I started my career 20 years ago as a supply chain demand forecaster, and then made my way into the field of AI. So happy to be here and share what we have done here at PRGX.
Fantastic, thank you. Briceson, same to you. Welcome. Please, a little bit of an overview for the audience of you today.
You're on mute, Briceson.
Well, it wouldn't be a webinar if we didn't start that way. So let's start with, now that I'm off mute, Ian, first, thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to this group. As you mentioned, my name is Briceson Jones. I'm Director of Contract Optimization for PRGX. I've spent, every time I say it out loud, it pains me to say, 30 plus years in procurement. So I'm a career procurement guy, and excited about the opportunity that is being presented to us, these days with all the technology and how we move forward, and looking forward to talking to the group about that today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really look forward to this conversation. Before we dive into it, though, it's a little bit of housekeeping as ever, just to make sure everybody's comfortable with the conversation and how they can contribute as well. Handouts, take a look at those afterwards. Some really interesting additional information there from PRGX and some great thought leadership to review afterwards with the teams and share more widely, and take a look at the upcoming webinar calendar as well. This is an interactive session, so do put your questions into us as well. We'd love to hear from you in the moment. We'll try and answer those in the moment if they're relevant to where we are in the conversation, or for us to move on to the next piece of the conversation, the Q&A at the end, which would be great to hear from you guys. We've had questions already in, which is fantastic. We've weaved those into the conversation today, or we'll answer some of those as we get to the end as well. But as ever, feedback super important, and any technical difficulties, the team in the background will be very happy to assist if you have a look and comment in that Q&A box. We're going to kick into it though now. Briceson, I'm going to come to you first. We're going to look at how supply contract management can really directly influence business performance. Today's environment, I think it's not just about managing spend, it's about uncovering those hidden value and then protect those margins in smarter ways. So maybe just give us a bit of a definition from your perspective as well. Kind of what does contract management mean? It means a lot of things to different people, companies, how you define it. Over to you.
Yeah, so when I think about contract management, to me, it's very similar to category management, right? A term that this audience should be very familiar with, right? And what I mean by that is sort of the overarching view of the contract, right? Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So if you think about compliance, or think about that as the look back, right? The retroactive look, am I getting what I negotiated? Optimization in your contracts puts you in more of the proactive stance. So if you think about initiating deal terms that set you up for today and tomorrow, but then again, it's never done, right? So we've got to continue to make sure that we're doing that, and that's where continuous monitoring comes in. Make sure that you get what you look for ahead of time, right before your contracts are going out the door. So just, as I say, you can see it's got the infinity loop, right? We're just kind of continuously paying attention to that process.
Fantastic. Thank you. Then we're going to move on to the first part of the conversation today. So interesting stats here to kick us off with, Briceson.
Yeah, so inflationary pressures and global uncertainties are squeezing profits from both ends for us, right? Sales revenue, supply chain costs, all those sorts of things. Procurement teams face a perfect storm with delays, talent shortages, tight budgets, do more with less. So why does this matter, and how does this relate to contract management, right? So research shows that poor contract management can cost companies up to 9% to their bottom line, while active contract management can add 8%. So you're talking about a 17-point swing there in profitability. With the very large dollars that we are working with day in and day out, small inefficiencies have a big impact. Procurement contracts are inherently complex, introducing risk that can directly impact the profits if unmanaged. Getting full value from a contract isn't something that's guaranteed, right? You've got to dig down into it. Leading organizations now, as we're beginning to talk about today, are using data-driven insights and AI-powered tools to be the backbone of their contract, so negotiated benefits don't slip away. Renegotiation isn't just about updating terms. It's to reset the relationship and embed stronger commercial and contractual terms, building healthier and more transparent supplier partnerships. Investing in contract excellence delivers measurable financial impact. We have a poll question that we're going to pull up now to see how the audience feels about how their organizations see contract management.
Yeah, we are indeed. I'm going to be interested on this. So yeah, Briceson laid it out nicely for us there. So yeah, please do answer the question. How would you describe your organization's current approach to contract management? Are you reactive? You address issues only when they arise, transactional, so you're tracking key dates, but your analysis is quite limited. Are you more proactive? Will you proactively analyze contract language to mitigate risks and optimize terms? Or are you AI enabled? So you're actively using technology to extract insights to improve contracts. Maybe Briceson just and Amit, we can be both, just as we wait for the audience to provide some thoughts or to provide us with their answers. Where would you expect people to really sit with these responses?
Well, I would think there'd be two parts, and there would be like, where does this group, this particular audience, want it to be, and where are they? I think more often than not, you'll find that folks or organizations are very reactive. You have a group of procurement people who say, well, if we can get me in a lot earlier, I can be a lot more proactive. So my guess is you're probably in that transactional for most folks, and working toward the maturity model that'll take them toward that proactive. And then eventually, obviously, the AI-enabled approach.
Of course. Anything you'd build on around to that?
No, I think I would agree with what was said. I think that's what I'm expecting. Let's see.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the results then. And Briceson is absolutely spot on. I always I like sometimes for somebody to be in that top bracket, because it means we can give them a phone call afterwards and see what they're doing and how they're so mature in this already. No, I think you're absolutely spot on there, kind of with where people have landed here, which makes this type of conversation even more crucial and interesting for us to have today, given the position of the audience. So maybe Briceson, if you could just expand a little bit for us on kind of the three areas of contract management you mentioned earlier, just to kick us off into the next portion of the conversation today then.
Sure, happy to do so. So starting with the contract compliance that we talk about, very simply stated, it's, am I getting what I negotiated? Is what I negotiated what I am receiving? So contract compliance ensures suppliers adhere to the agreed terms, the pricing, the conditions, the scope. An analogy I like to think about with contracts is, think of them like watches, right? You have ones that are very straightforward, off a battery, not a lot of complexity to them. They're pretty simple, but you still have to pay attention to them, right? If your battery runs out on your watch, it doesn't work anymore. And the contracts are the same way, right? Some of those that are simple, you just have to really keep an eye on. Others, you might be more akin to a fine Swiss watch. You've got gears and movements that are complex and have to be regularly serviced to ensure they operate at maximum efficiency. That's where you need experts who know how to take off the cover, where the parts are, what they do, and how they work together. Once the cover is taken off, maybe you find charges that shouldn't in the contract world, right? Maybe there's charges that shouldn't be there, gray margins, exclusions slipping through, generally just oversight and changes that have happened that continue to happen over time. Supplier relationships can last 5 to 10 years. So leakage based on a lot of contracts can happen over 3 to 4 years. The more complex the agreement, the higher the spend, the more opportunity there typically is for errors to occur. And digging into these contracts and supplier relationships build transparency, shine a light on the relationship, and allow you to recapture some value that may have been missed. Oops. There it goes. Sorry, I was trying to move to the next slide. I couldn't get it to go there. But so then it's like we like to talk about what is it and why does it matter? Why do I care about it, right? So contracts, when you start, are very clear with their intent, but over time, that clarity tends to erode. When terms drift or data is missing, the financial and operational impact grows silently. We don't know about it. It's kind of happening in the background. So our long-term agreements tend to suffer from intent drift, is what we like to call it, right? Everybody knows where we started, but where are we now? And maybe even some of the people who started those initial negotiations aren't with the organization anymore, or maybe priorities have changed. So that can lead to, inconsistencies there. Different interpretations of financial mechanics can create to be a problem. Well, maybe I see markups and pass-throughs and rebates and those things different than maybe my supplier does. So making sure that we're going back and looking at those is key. Ambiguity often drives the misalignments. So clarity on these discussions, or having clarity discussions around it, can prevent that misalignment. Another thing is making sure that the data that you're seeing is clear and understandable. Without that accurate data, you're open to a lot of blind spots in compliance. These issues tend to compound across the years, making proactive contract management essential. And that leads us to what we refer to as contract optimization. So procurement teams are facing, as you mentioned, to kick us off, Ian, that they're facing the challenges of being asked to do more with less. You've got reduced headcount, talent gaps, too many contracts, too little time, increased pressures to uncover savings opportunity. As procurement teams and procurement leaders with an organization, we'd like to have better oversight over the contract ecosystem, better views of the spend, contract standardization, metadata across all the company's contracts, and intelligence that helps us with our negotiation. And for us, technology plays a crucial role in that. It provides our ability to review data and contract languages on a large scale and in an efficient manner. Typically today, if you have somebody that wants to know something about a contract or a group of contracts, you're looking at them one at a time, right? So there's got to be a way to, how do we aggregate these together? How do we get them in one place and get the information that we need from it? Well, technology plays a crucial role in increasing that productivity. Our approach uses purpose-built, procurement-focused AI, along with data intelligence and our subject matter expertise, as the cornerstones of our contract optimization. Amit's going to get more into the AI part a little bit later in the presentation, but I think it's important to point out it's none of these one things alone, right? If the AI can pull you some information from the contract and give you some feedback on it, but if you don't have a subject matter expert there to interpret what they're seeing, what have you gained? So it's bringing all three of those together and looking at it very holistically, which gets you to that best spot. So again, why do we care, right? As the saying goes, if we don't pay attention to history, we're bound to repeat it. Contracting is no different than that. During a compliance review, you're bound to find opportunities for improvement. For a given category of spend, I would guess that the folks on this call probably very familiar with the top 2, 3, 4 suppliers within a category, but what about the remaining ones? What about the other third area? It's just too hard to try to keep up with all those. You can't do that as an individual without the proper support in place. So optimization matters. Optimization of contracts within a category and across an enterprise, for that matter. Deliver standardization with the best terms that we all want for our contracts. When we get those in place, it leads to reduced costs and loss of value going forward. So the last step in the process, as I mentioned previously, is just that continuous part, right? Keeping up with the agreements and the associated invoicing in real time to properly ensure accuracy. We refer to this as contract monitoring. So, you know, when all this started, we talked about the retroactive look, how we're going back to see that, you know, are we getting what we negotiated? But wouldn't it be better if your invoices were aligned to the contract before you paid them and after, and having to go back and look at it retroactively? With the massive volume of invoices received by most accounts payable teams, technology is the only way to accomplish this. You have thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands of these invoices are coming in. With a continuous monitoring program, you can ensure the invoice complies with the agreement and identify and correct any gaps before the invoice goes out the door, right? So you're not chasing the dollars, you're keeping them from going away. You're extract that value and hold on to that value and not have to chase it later. As I mentioned, the administrative staff and burden needed to do this at the enterprise level will be so large, most organizations just won't and frankly can't take on that kind of expense. Technology can be the solution to get over the administrative burden hurdle, allow companies to implement the best practice of auditing those invoices before they go out, before they're remitted. So we'd like to hear from this group about what struggles they're having with contract management. And I think, Ian, that's going to lead us to our next poll question.
It sure is indeed. So yeah, you're going to see the poll in front of you on this occasion. So slightly different to the last one. We'd like to, from biggest to smallest, to rank the challenges you face in contract management and performance today. So those areas being a lack of visibility into contract terms, difficulty tracking and enforcing compliance, poor standardization across contracts, fourthly, vendor non-compliance with agreed terms, and fifthly, insufficient internal resources to manage compliance effectively. So let's just give the audience a little bit of time to have an opportunity to rank those. They're all areas that when we talk to the procurement leaders community at the moment and talk about this in this particular space. So I'm interested for us as we move on to the AI portion of this conversation as well, where there are probably some consistencies or some areas that people are really struggling and facing. Everything as ever has its own business context that we're generally seeing from everybody as to how they're struggling or looking at challenges in their own performance for their organizations. But be interested to see kind of what comes in from the audience now. We've got a few answers that are just starting to pop up. So maybe I'll do. If we actually bring those in on screen now, I start to have a look as to how people have ranked those for us. The first answer just being 5, and it's just all 5 that are troublesome equally for you potentially. But there we are 2, 1, 5, 3, 4, which means for that organization it's the difficulty tracking and enforcing, and then it's lack of visibility. Yeah, I mean unsurprisingly it was quite a split as to how. Yeah. Bryceson, your thoughts?
Well, I'd say it's not surprising at all to see the one that has 5, right? Where I think someone will say, like, I've got insufficient resources, and that's what we're all facing, right? Everybody's like, look, I may have lost to a RIF some folks. I may have just, again, maybe I can't find the talent that I need in this group. So I don't have, or I'm sorry, in the marketplace to bring into my group. And so I think everybody is facing that. I'm also not surprised to see how it's across the board, right? These are all problems that we have. And there a lot of them are very intertwined, right? If you have the proper tools in place, you can do some of them. If you don't, you can't, right? And so I think you have, 1 in 3 are pretty aligned, where if you don't have standardization, it really changes that visibility, because each contract is different. So not only is it difficult to understand about all my contracts, but they're also all different, right? And so it just leads to, a real problem and a real struggle that many of us face.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amit, just to bring you in to get some thoughts as we close out this section as well. I mean, you're constantly looking at kind of the solution here as well, and kind of thinking about how ways you can support customers. Any kind of one challenge that you see with more commonality than others, or is it something that again is very much across the board and we need to deal with and help support customers as you think about what you're programming?
No, I think it's all of the above actually, and that's where I think we have seen the power of technology coming into play, where technology can now really become the differentiator in terms of like understanding these different differences in the contracts and extracting information. And I talk more about that in my next session, in my session that comes up.
Brilliant. Thank you, Briceson. I'm going to hand back to you at this point. I think we're going to move on a little bit. We may have jumped a couple of slides, I think, for us to talk a little bit about this and actually the reality in action around from a use case perspective. So,
yeah, absolutely. So we just want to give you a quick example of how contract management was put into practice with one of our clients. The company came to us with a feeling and a knowledge that their maintenance program wasn't being managed as well as it could have been, but they were unsure how to get their hands around the problem and what a best-in-class program looked like. Our review showed significant variability across suppliers in terms of service, cost, expectations. SLAs were weak, if not non-existent. Hourly rates, we found them to be all over the place. Parts markups, extreme. And the client had been charged, as an example, we had a client that was charged nearly $20 for a part that should have cost them, less than $1. Ultimately, we were able to provide them with the commercial and contractual language they needed to develop a top-tier maintenance program. The recommendations led to a 13% reduction in maintenance spend, and for them, that was over $3 million, nearly $3.5 million a year. And again, this is getting your contracts the way they needed to be. We aligned SLAs with the industry best terms, including penalties for poor or failing service, consistent contract language across the vendor base, creating a even playing field. And what made all of this possible for us and made it a task that we could undertake was our contracts insight tool. And I'll pass that over to Amit now and let him talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think we have a poll right before that, right? Yep.
We do indeed. We're going to bring one in here as we start to look and think now a little bit about the AI side of this as well. So as we do it, let's just think about kind of how would you describe your organization's current use of AI in contract management. So you don't use it at all yet. You don't use it yet, but you plan to. You use AI for help with vendor correspondence. You use AI for basic contract review help. So example being Copilot, ChatGPT, or you use AI for contract drafting and clause enhancement. So again, yeah, let us know and see. Again, the same question to you both. I think it's interesting to see kind of where everybody will put their responses. But again, what are you expecting to see, Amit?
Yeah, I think based on what we have seen with our clients, people are kind of like trying a lot of things out at this point for the same reason. I've seen people using Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT to kind of like do the extraction of information. We are actually we saw some clients that are trying to basically try with some of the service providers to see if they can build a tool for them. So people want to basically use AI to get scale and consistency in terms of their compliance audits. And those are the two goals I think we are trying to solve using our contract insights tool.
Okay, and Briceson, anything further on that? What are you expecting to? So let's have the results. Let's take a look. We got them up in front of us as we were going there anyway as well. So Briceson, maybe your thoughts on just responding to the data.
Yeah, I mean the way that I see it is I'm not surprised to see that you've got a large group that's using some for contract review, Copilot, ChatGPT, those sorts of things. Seeing the red and the green. I'm sorry, the red and orange there are the two that I would expect to have seen the most where it's being used today. I think we're seeing a lot of organizations where people are being asked to, as part of their goals, let's use AI to make ourselves better and more efficient. So again, seeing that number low doesn't surprise me, but using it really on the periphery and using something that is basic versus built for this particular purpose is what I would expect to see. And I think that's what we see playing out.
Brilliant. Interesting results. I think, Amit, I'm going to hand over to you. Let's talk a little bit more about PRGX's Contracts Insights platform. And it's just a really good opportunity to spend a bit of time unpacking the platform itself, and just to give a little bit of that detail here for the audience. So over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So I guess going back to my earlier point that when you think about contract compliance, right, there are two main issues we see in the compliance. One is the scale. You have a large number of contracts. Right now, you want to really parse information from those contracts and be able to use that for your compliance audit. So the scale is a big factor. And then second is you want to have a consistency in terms of your compliance audit, right? So we built Contract Insights for those two main reasons, to be able to provide the scale to our auditors, like people like Briceson, who can quickly get thousands of contracts, convert the unstructured data to structured data, and then use that information for doing the audit in a consistent way across the entire organization. So the tool is, of course, was not possible in the past, but with the inventions and innovations that have happened in the AI, we have been able to achieve some of that scale pretty quickly. So we basically take large corpus of unstructured contracts and then get the structured output from that. That's kind of the gist of the tool. But in between that, it does a lot more, and that really helps our auditors to get the information. So we try to extract 100+ clauses from our contracts. If you think about clauses, I kind of think about three main categories. You have the financial clauses, you have the performance clauses, and you have the risk clauses. So we provide this ability to auditors to basically search for these clauses, tag them, filter them, and make changes to the extractions that have come out. And this is a feedback loop that goes back in the AI, where AI models can learn based on the feedback provided by the auditors. And now we also provide them the ability to visualize the entire contract in a hierarchical way. So we'll talk a lot more about that in the subsequent slides. And this is what we call as the 7 steps of our Contract Insights. So typically, most clients store their contracts in some kind of a CLM, contract lifecycle management system, or in the worst case, they are relying on somewhere in SharePoint, right? So we are seeing both of those worlds. So your goal is to basically take information from those systems, wherever they are, and quickly pull those into your Contract Insights tool. So that's the first step of our Contract Insights tool, where we get a large dump of contracts and be able to ingest those at scale within the tool. So we have clients that have given us like thousands, like tens of thousands of contracts, and we were able to actually ingest those within the tool at scale. One challenge you will see when it comes to the contracts, right? There are several versions that are lying around for the same contract. These are where people are exchanging the contracts and things are getting changed. So before you start your compliance audit, you want to make sure that you look at the final source of truth, ignore the intermediate versions of the contract. So we have built our in-house dedicated algorithm specifically built for that takes this large number of contract documents, and using we call near similarity, it tries to keep the latest version and eliminates all the previous versions, right? Unwanted versions. So in this particular case, the example that I'm showing, the signed version is what we take for the compliance audit, and all the unsigned ones are eliminated from the audit purpose. And when I say eliminated, they are not deleted from the repository. It's just kind of like soft, we call it soft deleted. And this basically allows us to focus on the final source of truth. The third one is the clause extraction, and this is where we take the large amount of unstructured data. I think one of the points in the previous poll was the lack of standardization in contracts, right? No two contracts look the same. So somebody may call something as volume discounts. Somebody else may call it differently. So for you to be able to extract that information, understanding the semantic meaning of the clauses is very, very important. And with the advancements in AI, now we can actually really understand that these two clauses semantically mean the same thing. So we allow our auditors to get 105 clauses that we have narrowed down with a single click of a button. So the contract gets ingested, and behind the scene, we extract all these 105 clauses from the contract documents. One of the holy grails contracts is the extraction of tables. So sorry, I may have clicked the extraction of tables. And this is a big challenge because tables are very notorious. Tables actually span multiple pages. You have blank rows, blank columns in tables. You have tables within tables, right? So it's extremely hard to extract tables from the documents. And when it comes to compliance review, you want to focus on the financial clauses, and most of the financial clauses come in a tabular format. Think about pricing, think about discounts, right? They come in a more of a tabular format. We have a client that actually spent a significant amount of time figuring out how to extract this tabular data so they can quickly use that for matching with the accounts payable side. And they struggled with that. So we have built our purpose-built AI model that actually extracts tables from these contracts. And we allow people to download those tables at a click of a button into Excel spreadsheets. And this makes the whole the review process much more faster. The next one is a hierarchy. We actually, if you think about contracts, it's a collection of documents. It's a family of documents, right? You have MSAs, SOWs, amendments, and there is a lineage that these documents form. So for you to understand the source of truth at any point in time, you need to be able to connect those documents in a temporal hierarchy. And we have built patent pending algorithm that actually does that very, very good outcomes. So think about the documents with their names and dates. The AI algorithms really understands those, extracts that information, and then uses that to connect these documents. So now you can understand the evolution of various clauses over a period of time. And at any point in time, we can provide our auditors the source of truth at the time the invoice came, right? So you want to make sure that you basically, when it comes to compliance, you want to match the invoices with the source of truth at the point the invoice was issued. So this algorithm has helped us to do that. And then the next important aspect from an optimization perspective is you need to basically be able to understand the spend categories. And companies have used various type of spend categories. The one most common one that people use is called ULSPSC, spend category listing. But based on the contract documents, you need to be able to quickly assign the spend categories. And this is again a place where AI has come along quite a bit of a way, where now you can, looking at the contract documents, understanding the language in the contracts, understanding the vendors, you can quickly assign the spend categories to the contracts. And this allows you to create these repositories of contracts by various spend categories. Final step is the opportunity scoring, and this is where we call it our holy grail. We have done now until this point, we have done a work around deduplication. We have built the hierarchies, but now we want to make use of that to basically provide or bubble up the top opportunity contracts to the top. And this is where our opportunity scoring module comes in, that basically takes the contracts and in the absence of this particular feature, the only option auditors had was to look at spend, and they would kind of look at the contracts based on the spend as a primary criteria in terms of focusing on the contracts. But spend is a very incomplete signal in terms of contract prioritization. And I'll give you an example. If you think about two contracts with two suppliers with a similar spend, but one supplier basically has lump sum pricing contracts, and other supplier has cost plus pricing contracts, right? The chance of overpayment or chance of opportunity is higher in the cost plus pricing contracts than in the lump sum, right? But in the past, auditors had to go inside the contracts, understand the pricing scheme, and then only they can realize that they want to focus on the contracts with the cost plus pricing. With the advancement in AI, now AI can actually pre-read the contracts, really understand various different attributes within the contracts, and marry those attributes with the spend to come up with a score that we can assign to the contracts. And these scores basically help us to really bubble up all the top opportunity contracts to the top. So we use about 24 different attributes in doing this scoring, and that really helps us to cut down the time we spend on the contract audit. So with that, why don't we go to our next poll?
Yeah, well, before we do, I've got a couple of questions, if I may. I'm interested to kind of dig in a little bit further with you both on some of these. Amit, we're talking about an area here for a business that's continued to be really important, and the AI solution aspect is something that we can really dig into. But why are companies looking, in your opinion, to think about choosing a specialized AI solution for contract compliance instead of relying on more general purpose AI tools? Can you talk a little bit maybe about some of the unique advantages that those purpose-built approaches deliver to customers and organizations?
Yeah, great question. I get that question quite a bit, because I think we also saw that large percentage of people were also using tools like Copilot and so on. And you could get to certain level of outcomes using some of those tools, some of the general purpose tools. And I typically give an analogy of like a Swiss Army knife, right? Using a general purpose tool like a Copilot or ChatGPT for contract compliance audit is like using a Swiss knife to fix your car engine, right? Can it do a job? Partially and slowly. But if you want to get the scale, if you have tens and thousands of contracts, you want to do all the things I talked about, deduplicate the contracts, figure out, extract 100 plus clauses from the contracts at scale, you need to have a purpose-built tool for that. And that's kind of like where we focused and built this tool for our audit, for our compliance audit.
Briceson, can you add that? Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I was going to say something I might add to that is, when we look at it from a procurement lens, most of the tools out there today are legal focused, right? Thinking about getting the contract back and forth, helping with language, those sorts of things, as opposed to being able to pull and put together metadata, aggregate the metadata across the ecosystem of all your contracts. That part to me, as a procurement person or a procurement leader, is really the crux of what happens and helps, right? So that way I can know, it helps me decide where should my focus be. And when you're going across a large ecosystem, you've got to find where you need to focus, or, the old saying, if everything's a focus, then nothing's a focus, right? So it's helps me determine where I should go.
Good point.
Thank you. And a lot of AI solutions, or many AI solutions, focus on contracts that already exist in the market as well. So why build that new solution?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Briceson was just saying. We actually looked at the market, and we found that there are quite a few solutions, but they are built for legal purposes, right? To extract legal clauses from the contracts. Whereas if you think about compliance audit, your focus is more on the financial clauses, commercial clauses, right? And there are, we haven't come across any tool that can do that. So that's when we decided to invest and build something like this.
It's about finding those nuances that are specific for this particular market and creating that product that supports it. Great. No, thank you both. We've launched the poll here actually about fundamentally would everybody on the conversation on the call today be interested in having more of a discussion with PRGX about supplier contract management strategy? Let's bring up the results of that. I think clearly kind of there's 4 people on the line who are keen, or 29% of the people who are keen to do so, and 71% who are maybe. The good news is we've got 18 minutes left to turn those maybes into yeses, Briceson.
Is this time for the shameless plug?
But let's move on to kind of some final pieces though. But over to you, just to kind of to bring us home with a bit of additional context as to how you do support customers.
Absolutely. So apologize, I'm having problems getting it to flip over here. There we go. I mean, to me, the first thing is, look, we've got 20 years of doing this. With that, I mean, people who focus on contracts day in and day out, right? We've done 500 of these supplier audits that are done each year. But the biggest part to me is, if you look in the top right, it's the 90 subject matter experts that we have in this area that really differentiate what we do. So when you bring together I mentioned this earlier, right? The AI is great. It gives us the information. It's the tool. It's not the solution. So that with the data that we are able to pull, plus the subject matter experts, really puts us in a unique position in the marketplace, I believe. Because as you have people who are focused on very specific areas within that organization. Maybe they focus on logistics and transportation. Maybe they're focused on maintenance. Maybe they're focused on finance. And so these are people who are living in these agreements day in and day out, which I think, again, gives a position to do it. And we've been doing this, as I mentioned, a long time. So we really have the ability to drive value for organizations. And I think, again, that the combination of all of those is what gets us there. And again, just one more look about how it is that we view this, right? You have to look at it yesterday, today, and tomorrow. If you're only looking at one piece of it, you're going to lose somewhere along the way. Sometimes we have clients where we'll go back on a contract compliance and find dollars, and most of them are comfortable to go recover some of those dollars. Occasionally we have some that aren't. I always like, if someone's going to give me money, I'll take it. But that's just me. But then when I think about that, and then for those, it's like, okay, well, let me fix this. Let me fix the issue going forward. Optimization comes in. Let's create that standardization that helps me manage all of my contracts more efficiently. And then as I finish that, the monitoring that makes sure that, I am getting what I negotiated for before it gets out the door. So, we do this with some of the biggest organizations in the world, and do it, are able to be quite successful in doing so. So we'd love to have the opportunity to talk to anybody on this call about how we'll be able to help them as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Thanks to both of you. We're going to move to a bit of some additional questions that we had in from the audience as well before the webinar today, actually. So there's some good opportunity for us to dive into some of those. Briceson, one question we had: what is the biggest missed opportunity companies face when renegotiating supplier contracts?
I think there's a couple of answers to that question when I think about it. I guess the first one would be really paying attention to what has my contract been like for the last X period of time, right? So as I look at the contract that I have, and I guess just going back, looking back at that agreement in retrospect, is it doing, and what can I learn from the contract over that period of time, and how do I work that into my negotiations? I guess the second thing is, very often all folks are able to do is really measure themselves against themselves. So, right, when you think about your contract, I'm comparing myself to what was the current contract like to the one that I'm going to negotiate. And really, you need independent views or more market intelligence. Sometimes you're able to get it, but really finding opportunities to bring market intelligence into it, I think, is a big part of being successful.
Thank you. And Amit, for you, kind of some more specifics on platform, really. So how does PRGX's AI differentiate between similar clauses across thousands of contracts, especially when language varies so much? Good question.
Yeah, if you had asked that question to me, say 4 years ago, my answer is, well, we can't, right? But with the advancements in Gen AI, now we can really understand the semantic meaning behind the contract clauses, right? So
Yeah.
two clauses, maybe the language may look different, but as long as the semantic meaning is similar, we kind of bring them into the same category. And that's kind of like how we have seen success with our clause extraction.
Brilliant, thank you. And Briceson, back to you. The case study example that you shared, what made the external support so valuable for them? And you can just double down on for the audience there.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about what I mentioned just a second ago, right, the experts that we have in the field day in and day out, they know the market, right? So they're when you're in it every day, if you think about a contract, a lot of times what happens, and somebody else came up with this. I can't take credit for the phrase, but I love it, where a clause is out there getting digital dust, right? So it goes, you do it, it goes into your CLM, it sits there, and so I was like, oops, I just got a reminder, it's coming up in 6 months, I should go take a look at it. And then you have a very short period of time to understand and try to see what is the marketplace like today. So our folks that were in that and being able to break down the agreements that came in and knowing specifically what to look for in those agreements to make them better. Where are the areas? I mean, there's, hey, what should the rate for a electrician be in California, right? I mean, that's the simplistic part of it. But it's digging more deeply into, where do we typically find issues in terms of people getting billed multiple times for a service call. They did a repair today, came back tomorrow and got charged for it twice. They were paying, is again, like the example that I used where somebody paid $20 for a $1 for something that should have cost them less than $1. Not everybody's going to know that. And a category manager may or may not, but likely that level of detail and having the time to get to that level of detail probably doesn't exist. So I think that's where we drove the most value is bringing together all those pieces. I hate to sound like a broken record, but using the tool and then the subject matter experts to break down the information that's provided by the tool.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm definitely taking that digital dust phrase with me as well. I like that one a lot.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I wish it were mine.
It really works. Well, Briceson, you coined it for me, so you're now the author of it for me anyway. But Amit, one last question to you here before we move to some final thoughts and takeaways from you both. But final one from the audience: can table extraction take out rates, delivery dates for different types of data? Can it group them by contract?
Absolutely, and that's the secret sauce, right? That is what it took us a long time to build that, but absolutely it can do that.
Brilliant, thank you. Nice and concise, and an answer yes. We're at time for the conversations today. Just always like to leave our audience here with some final thoughts from you both. Really, major takeaway that they should really just be thinking about, and as they go into their roles kind of this week, next week, and having learned from this conversation, if there's one thing they should really think about in this particular space and how it can optimize their roles, their functions, what is it that you would really encourage them to think about? And Briceson, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's really about what tools do I have access to, or what tools can I get access to that help me? Try in today's world of procurement, it is way too hard to try to do these things all on your own. You can't, especially in large organizations. Trying to do it across a huge ecosystem is very hard. You need help, and there are organizations out there to do it. We're one of those that can help. And I think just understanding that to be able to do things on scale, you've got to have the proper tools in place to be able to do it. Otherwise, it's just a little.
I lost you there just for a moment. Got you back again. It may have been my signal. You cut out just at the end there, but thank you. And Amit, similar to you, similar question to you to leave the audience with today.
Yeah, since Briceson talked about tools, I'll talk about the subject matter expertise, right? It's a people like Briceson who look at thousands of contracts across hundreds of customers that we have, right? That's also a differentiator. So tool can basically provide you the scale, and then the subject matter expertise can actually really find those needles in the haystack that we are missing.
Brilliant. So marrying those things together really gives that opportunity to deliver that that expertise and that insight for an organization. Like, fantastic. Well, thank you both for bringing both your expertise and the subject matter expertise around the tools, the processes, etc., and the knowledge to this conversation today. It's been great for everybody who's joined us for it. Really insightful, really in depth on an area that's going to continue to be of great interest and great opportunity for the procurement function. So yeah, really appreciate both of you joining us. Lastly, just to those who are with us, do take a look at the upcoming calendar of webinars we still have remaining this year. It might be the 10th of December, but we're also a couple left for the year, and we're very much gearing up to start 2026 with a bang as well. So plenty to sign up for after a well-earned break for everybody at the end of this year. Please leave your feedback as well. And as I mentioned at the start of the conversation, do have a look at the handouts page. There's a really good piece of work there on the 2026 guide to negotiating and optimizing in this space. So please do take a look for that. But again, a huge thank you to PRGX for their partnership of this particular session, as amongst other pieces that they do with procurement leaders across the course of the year, from live events to these pieces as well. And a big thank you to Amit and Briceson and for you all for joining us today. Otherwise, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing everybody again very soon.
Thank you so much, Ian. We appreciate it, and thank you to procurement leaders and those that took the time to join us today. We're really appreciative.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.